Season 1 of the HBO series The Last of Us did really well when it first came out, not only bringing in strong viewership numbers, but also having a decent critic as well as audience score on sites like Rotten Tomatoes. In fact, when Season 2 premiered, it brought in bigger viewership numbers than the Season 1 premiere, which means not only did it maintain its viewership, but it also brought more people into the fold. More people, mind you, that probably didn't actually play the game, but they came across the show, enjoyed the show, and were wondering what was going to happen next with Season 2. But for those of us who played the games, we knew what was in store for them, because a lot of people who loved the first game hated the story decisions that they had for the second game, particularly the decision to kill off Joel and the manner in which they killed off Joel. And since Season 2 of the show was supposed to follow Part 2 of the game, it stands to reason that we're going to basically see history repeat itself, but maybe television audiences would take to it differently. But after we saw the second episode when they did kill off Joel, turns out, no, audiences just hated those same story decisions that were alienated to the gaming audience, because you saw the viewership numbers just take a nosedive, and that corresponds with the audience score on sites like Rotten Tomatoes also taking a nosedive, which indicates that a lot of people did not like these story decisions. But since all this happened, they were already greenlit for a third season. They kind of had things set in motion. So what were they going to do with this? Because clearly some heads had the roll as a result of the travesty that was Season 2 of The Last of Us. And right now it's looking like Neil Druckmann himself is on the chopping block as a result of what happened when it came to Season 2 of The Last of Us. The exit of The Last of Us writers hints Hollywood might be done playing nice with gamers. Is Hollywood effectively shutting out the creative input of top gamers after looting their greatest hits? This is coming from IndieWire here. It's been a major year for video games across TV and film, but the latest development out of HBO's The Last of Us suggests an uncertain future for even top game creatives in Hollywood. On Wednesday, the co-writers behind The Last of Us Part 2, a best-selling horror video game that broke records and won 2020's Game of the Year hundreds of times, announced they would immediately exit the TV show. Now, to me, this suggests that there was some turmoil going on behind the scenes, because they already knew before the second season came out that they're already going to do a third season. That was announced. They shot the second season with that in mind, that they're only going to do half of the second game, and then they're going to take over the next half in the third season of this, because for people who don't remember, the Part 2 of the game kind of was split in two, and that's what they basically did Season 2 and Season 3 of. So it's not as if this was just kind of like, oh, well, we just couldn't fit Neil Druckmann into it, or we couldn't work out a deal with him prior to Season 2. It's like, no, I think there was an intention to actually keep him on board, but the fact that they're actually just announcing it right now that he's leaving the project, to me, suggests that there was some arguing going on behind the scenes, and this was a decision that they fell on, which is like, okay, clearly he's a problem. He didn't do a good job with the story, so we're just going to get rid of him. Now, obviously, he didn't do a good job with the story, but they just followed his story when it came to the game. So if they wanted to do something different with the Season 2, they probably should have not hired him to begin with on that and tried to do something a little bit different, because that was ironically one of the criticisms for Season 1 for people who played the game, is that there was some deviations in the story, but for the most part, people were able to get on board with the changes that they made for it. But when it came to Season 2, a lot of people who liked the games were saying, we hope that they make a change for Season 2 and don't actually follow the story of the game. Like one of the few times where people were saying, do not follow the source material, do something different with it. Well, they followed the source material, and the result is people did not like it. Does the rise and fall of Neil Druckmann at HBO suggest Hollywood is effectively shutting out the creative input of gamers after looting their greatest hits? I don't think that's really what it means. I just think they're going to be a little bit more selective, or they should be a little bit more selective, because one of the things when it comes to Season 2 of The Last of Us, or just adapting The Last of Us in general, is this article basically says it best, how it won 2020's Game of the Year awards hundreds of times. It's like, yes, critics loved it. You can even see that when it comes to Season 2 of The Last of Us, critics love it. But what critics love and what audiences love are oftentimes very different. And I think if you're going to adapt a video game franchise into either TV or movies, you should adapt something that's popular with gamers and not just popular amongst critics. HBO's take on Druckmann and Haley Gross's beloved zombie apocalypse game, The Last of Us Part 2, already deviated significantly from its source material. It just didn't deviate enough. That could explain the show's dramatic decline in viewership. No, the dramatic decline in viewership was the stuff that they adapted that everyone already said 5 years ago that they hated, but for some reason they wanted to double down on that one because it's like, oh, maybe gaming audiences and television audiences are different. Maybe gamers will hate something, but television audiences will be on board with it. Come to find out, that's not the case. Bad storytelling is always bad storytelling, no matter what medium you watch or consume it with. A problem some fans say the writer's exit will only make worse. No, I think getting rid of Neil Druckmann, pretty much anyone getting rid of him and distancing themselves from him would probably be for the betterment of whatever project they're working on. I mean, in all honesty, Naughty Dog should probably get rid of him, but I don't think we can expect that anytime soon. The Last of Us was created by Druckmann, head of Naughty Dog Studios, in 2013. He co-wrote the sequel with Gross a decade later. Just as he was starting up the TV show at HBO, both Druckmann and Gross worked on adapting The Last of Us Season 2 with showrunner Greg Mazin, and neither indicated they had plans of leaving during the show's most recent press cycle. And this is just more evidence to suggest to me that it wasn't an amicable split. He was basically ousted from HBO because of the backlash of season 2 of The Last of Us. But this is something that they would never actually say publicly because it doesn't help anyone in the entertainment industry to make it seem like it's a bad split because it just divides audiences. And it's always better from everyone because everyone comes out looking better when you can just say like, no, they chose to leave on their own fruition and we wish them the best or anything like that. Because if you start bad mouthing the former studio that you worked for or you got fired from, then other studios are not going to be willing to hire you in the future. And if you have a tendency of bad mouthing people that you had previously working for you, well, then people are not going to want to work for you in the future. So this is just how it works in the entertainment industry. This is the politics of the entertainment industry. If you're going to fire someone in a bad manner, you're going to handle it behind the scenes and then oust them. And then both people are going to try to say like, oh yeah, we wish the other one the best. But the only way you can actually tell if it was a good split or if it was actually some bad blood is whether or not they choose to work together in the future. So I guess time will tell. But as of right now, it looks like Neil Druckmann was just kind of canned. Now Mazin serves as the only creative voice expanding on the Last of Us storytelling universe in season 3. Druckmann has been a force in the game industry for years, but there's no denying that his public image was helped by the show. Maybe it was helped in the critics' eyes by this show, but as far as gamers go, no, most gamers, or at least a large portion of them, I would say the majority of gamers are not really happy with Neil Druckmann and a lot of the stuff he's done because even though they try to boast about Naughty Dog and a lot of the other games that he's worked on, he wasn't the creative voice behind those games. He wasn't the driving force behind a lot of those games. Maybe an argument could be made for the first Last of Us game, but even then there was other people involved with the creative say in it. Part 2 of The Last of Us was more of Druckmann's vision, and that's the one that people overwhelmingly hated. Name another video creative who has been elevated to that level. You can't set an anonymous industry insider. At least in game adaptation, no one else has had that kind of sudden household name recognition. Yeah, it almost seems like it's completely artificial. And maybe it's because he's pushing all the same agenda that a lot of these critics are pushing, which is also why they're just showering all of his games and stuff that he's working on with praise. While The Last of Us is filled the programming void left behind by Game of Thrones, Druckmann stepped into a genius author role previously filled by HBO by George R.R. Martin. In an official statement, Druckmann expressed gratitude for Mazin and HBO while simultaneously distancing himself from the future of their TV projects. And yeah, it's probably something that you expect that if there was not really a good split between the two. With work completed on season 2 and before any meaningful work starts on season 3, basically emphasizing that he's not working on season 3, he has nothing to do with season 3. Now is the right time for me to transition my complete focus to Naughty Dog and its future projects, including writing and directing our exciting next game, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, he wrote. And it looking like that's probably not going to go over too well either because Neil Druckmann carries so much bad blood amongst gamers. When they dropped the first trailer to it last December, you can see it got heavily ratioed on the official Naughty Dog YouTube channel. But not only that, Naughty Dog pretty much anticipated that the reaction to this was not going to be good. So they preemptively disabled comments, but still, to me, that just indicates that they're putting out stuff that they know audiences aren't going to like, but they're doing it anyway because Neil Druckmann himself is an ideologue. He doesn't care about putting out quality stuff that the audience wants. He cares about pushing his own agenda, which is something that critics have been glad about. That's why they praise his stuff. But critics don't pay the bills, it's the audience. And when this comes out, I'm not really expecting good things out of it, but I don't know, maybe they can turn this around. But right now it's looking like a lot of the people over at HBO are probably picking up what a lot of gamers figured out 5 years ago, and that Neil Druckmann should not be trusted. And you shouldn't be working with him if you want to tell quality stories that audiences like, because we saw with part 2 of The Last of Us and we saw with season 2 of The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann just cannot deliver in that area. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.